What's going on, guys? William Barry here, coming at you from the power of the internet. do 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 do. All right, man. Today we're doing chapters 4 of Ren Makes Stuff. Let's get right into it. Ooh, this one's only 12 minutes. All right, let's see what we got. I like how he's got a light for his guitar. These are premium examples of, you know, setting what the importance of something. Yes.
Cool.
That might actually be a bass. No, it's a guitar.
During the year I spent living back with my mum, I was leaning even more heavily into scouring the internet for answers. It became like an obsession. Most people my age were watching porn. I was on PubMed learning about mitochondria. I educated my...
I don't know, man. I don't know about that. I was watching porn when I was a young man, like middle school, high school, brother. By the time I got to like 20s, I was watching videos on atheism. I know. I started getting into politics.
People my age were watching porn. I was on PubMed learning about mitochondria. I educated myself in things like methylation, the building blocks of mitochondria, various immune cells and their functionality, and which supplements could help theoretically bring about homeostasis in my body. I taught myself of the various pathogens that could lead to the symptoms I was experiencing. Around this time, I started ordering medical test kits from private medical facilities. I had a eureka moment when, after posting some poop in a tube to a lab in London, I discovered I had an amoeba and another more benign gastrointestinal parasite called blastohominis. Both could plausibly lead to systemic pain and fatigue. Upon researching the best course of action, I found this doctor in New York who was a world-renowned specialist in treating parasites. Return flights to New York, booked far enough in advance, were a couple of £100 back then. The treatment itself was pretty cheap. I was in no way in a strong financial position, and neither was my family, so I did what I always do when I needed to get money. I wrote and recorded some songs from my laptop from bed. One about getting to New York to find a cure. I sold a modest amount of digital copies to my Facebook friends and my friends and family, just enough to afford a trip. During this time, my symptoms had gotten a lot worse, so the entire visit was a bit of a blur. I remember sitting in a waiting room and struggling to find an inch of wall space that wasn't taken up by the countless medical qualifications and the diplomas attached to it. I half expected the walls to start bragging about their Ivy League connections and debating the latest medical research while us mere mortals waited to be called in. When I was finally on the doctor's table, I was told to take off my clothes and put on a blue disposable paper robe. An old man in his 80s hobbled in, pulled on a medical glove, and proceeded to cover his finger in Vaseline.
Oh no, buddy. Welcome to being a man. You never get used to it. You don't. My least favorite, I don't even mind the finger in the bum. I hate it when they cut my balls and ask me to cough. Like, bro, what are you doing?
Pulled on a medical glove and proceeded to cover his finger in Vaseline. My heart sunk. I was pretty sure I knew what was coming next. I suddenly wished I'd experimented more with my ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
What was coming next? I suddenly wished I'd experimented more with my ex-girlfriend. I didn't want to lose my backdoor virginity like this. He could have at least done me the courtesy of putting on some Marvin Gaye and lighting some candles. But instead I lay in uncomfortable silence on a brightly exposed operating table, while a firm-handed, overqualified old man inserted his index finger forcefully into my anus.
Overqualified old man. I just love the way the people across the sea use descriptors, man. It's glorious. Like, his qualifications are meaningless. Essentially, I mean, I guess not. I mean, like, you don't want someone to put their finger in your butt that has no idea what they're doing. So you want them to be somewhat qualified. but overqualified.
Handed overqualified old man inserted his index finger forcefully into my anus. He never wrote to me afterwards.
I felt you.
Nonetheless, I was officially diagnosed with the parasitic amoeba and given a course of heavy-duty antibiotics to take. I believe it was paramomycin and secnidazole. After the course was finished, I pooped into a tube again, and they confirmed I got rid of the parasites. The constant internal techno raves and gurgling which usually plagued my stomach ceased, but I felt just as crap. And on top of all of that, I started becoming allergic to everything. And I mean fucking everything. The antibiotics had triggered some sort of massive food intolerance reaction. Whenever I'd eat certain foods, I'd get hit with a sudden hangover-like feeling, and my face would swell up. I'd later learned this was something called MCAS, and it was triggered by the antibiotics.
So what a crazy concept, man. Like, a majority of Ren's issues didn't come from the medicine, or I mean, come from his illness. Majority of Ren's issues came from his ways of trying to, like, cure his illness. And, like, the various side effects that he felt on the things throughout that time.
I'd later learned this was something called MCAS, and it was triggered by the antibiotics. This was the first time I felt the crushing defeat of pinning a lot of money, hopes, and time into a treatment only for it to make me worse. I'd felt it to a small degree with every failed herbal protocol, every antidepressant that gave me side effects, but this was on a much larger...
I don't want to delude or pollute his message with my own ramblings. But even in the industry that I'm mostly familiar with, suffers from stuff like this all the time. So something that sucks is when someone comes in and they have an issue with their vehicle. One of the things you learn really quite early is you can only find one issue at a time. Sometimes multiple things are going wrong with a vehicle at any given time. Sometimes they're related, sometimes they're not. So something that sucks is when a person is starting to have issues with their vehicle, they come in and be like, oh, well, this is doing this. And then you fix that issue, but then they had another issue. Like, so let's say a vehicle was pulling slightly to the left. You come in and we put it on the rack. We do an alignment check on it. We find that your toe is out. Oh, okay. Well, that's okay. We can fix that. That's only $150 alignment charge, like $149.99. We'll throw it on the alignment rack. We'll align it, and then we'll test drive it. When we go down to start working on the vehicle, we notice that one of the boots is torn to the axle, the CV axle, and it's slinging grease. So then when we come back in and be like, hey, we should really replace this axle before we do your alignment, because you're going to have to do an alignment again afterwards. And if you're slinging grease, it means that you're not going to have the proper, it's not going to be properly compacted. Things are going to get loose. Bearings are going to start to wear, and it could cause further issues. And they're like, you're just trying to take us for every dollar. It's like, well, no. You came in for an alignment check. We did an alignment check. Then we got down to do the work. And after we shook down your front end, we saw that you had a torn boot. And you need to replace this to do this. Or you come in to do an alignment, and when we start the alignment process, your inner and outer tie rods are shot. Like, there's just, everything is so complicated that there are other issues that are going on while an issue is going on. Like, for example, I've seen it to where we've replaced the transmission on a vehicle whose engine was on the verge of blowing. So as we replace the transmission and we start up the vehicle and it moves, the engine just goes. It's like, fuck! But it had a blown transmission, so we couldn't even get the fucking thing to start. You're like, fuck, man! I've had to do that. That's an unfun experience. point that I'm saying is that, like, the worst part is he went and got that stuff for that parasite, and it quite clearly worked. It helped him to get rid of the parasite. But the medication exacerbated other issues on another tied to his other illness. The problem is you can't cure it all. Such a bummer, man.
And time into a treatment only for it to make me worse. I'd felt it to a small degree with every failed herbal protocol, every antidepressant that gave me side effects, but this was on a much larger scale. I almost felt guilty and full of shame for not getting better. I told my friends and family that this was going to be the thing that cured me. Not only did it fail, but I was now unable to tolerate basic carbohydrates, fruits, sugar, high histamine food, dairy, grains, without feeling terrible. I felt pretty crushed about that. Despite this, some tenacious part of me had a perseverance that didn't want to stop looking for answers. I was obsessed with trawling the internet. I strongly believe if I didn't have that tenacity to keep looking after every defeat, I'd probably be dead today. After about a year of living with my mum in North Wales, I got the itch.
Ooh. 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 I think I understand Ren now and what ultimately his downfall is going to be. So Ren is someone, like you just heard it here. I strongly believe if I didn't have that tenacity, I wouldn't be alive today. Something dangerous for Ren that he could fall into is if he believes that tenacity is a good thing. Like they say all the time, your biggest strength can become your biggest weakness. Moving forward in Ren's life, this is something he has to be afraid of. Because eventually he got it right, but he got it wrong a lot on the way there. And who wouldn't, right? Given his circumstances and his predicament. And it's dope that he's alive today because of that tenacity and that drive to find out what the fuck was going on. But that could make someone start to believe a little too much in themselves. Be careful, my young king, my mythical king. Do not fly close to that sun, brother.
Looking for answers. I was obsessed with trawling the internet. I strongly believe if I didn't have that tenacity to keep looking after every defeat, I'd probably be dead today.
So when he says something like that, at least right now, obviously I have to get through the rest of the chapters, it is a beautiful statement that he's saying that the reason why he's alive today is because of that tenacity, that drive. So that if someone in that situation, you should hold on to that and use a similar drive to keep pursuing what your answers are and finding the solution to what you believe to be your problem is. That tenacity is a good thing. But when you finally are successful with it, it'll build like a level of confidence that can be dangerous. I talk a lot about ego. And that's because I hate ego. Hate it. I think that egotistical people are some of the worst people around. I think that ego has very much aligned with greed and the way that people typically perceive greed. And the way that I perceive greed is the manifestation of evil in the world. Not to say that something evil is necessarily like intrinsically bad. Like I think violence is evil, but there are times where we utilize violence to protect those that we love, or our homestead, or something like that. I don't think a bad action is inherently bad. I think that, doing something requires intent, understanding, and context. But the dangerous thing that someone can fall into when they tried it all and nothing worked until the thing they tried, when everyone else would have gave up hope, they refused to back down. That can then become manifest as like a almost like a religious viewpoint on that, like, Rin is now never going to doubt himself moving forward. Especially now that he's made it in an industry that he made through his hard work. He found the solution to his problems. It's a dangerous thing to be, because it's like the same mentality that people like Elon Musk fall into. Like, I'm solving the world's problems. I'm the hero. It's a dangerous game. I'm not saying Ren's there. I'm just saying it's a dangerous mindset. And if you're ever someone in a similar situation like with Ren, who's cracked a code or figured something out, it's always in your best interest to stay as humble as possible.
Stop looking for answers. I was obsessed with trawling the internet.
Which you can see he's willing to do right now, because he's making fun of himself losing his anal virginity in this video. So I'm not saying Ren is there. I'm just saying over time, if you can continually feed that fire, Ren needs to have people in place that give him plenty of pushback. Because he's got such a massive amount of fans. This is the biggest fear that any YouTuber in the world should have, or any content creator or medium, and any of these things should be, is that they become too obsessed with their own message.
Pretty crushed about that. Despite this, some tenacious part of me had a perseverance that didn't want to stop looking for answers. I was obsessed with trawling the internet. I strongly believe if I didn't have that tenacity to keep looking after every defeat, I'd probably be dead today. After about a year of living with my mum in North Wales, I got the itch, and I decided that I'd make a bold move to Brighton. Most days I didn't really have the energy to do much other than short walks, but I had a friend over there who lived with ME for years. It felt like a safe space, a place of understanding. Being a 23-year-old living with his mother didn't feel very cool either. He had a free room going, and he was a legend. I desperately craved my own independence. After going through the heartbreak of losing love and losing the exciting career opportunity, I needed to feel like I wasn't just sitting in the tomb in Wales waiting for death, even if it was a struggle. I made the move. It was a really nurturing space, and it was full of the lunatics of Brighton who would come and go. I was still living in a thick haze, but I was meeting people who weren't judging me for it. With this safety, I was slowly finding my personality again. Despite the comfortable environment, it seemed my symptoms were only getting worse. I started having pretty constant panic attacks. The first one felt like a heart attack. I'd never experienced a panic attack before, so I wasn't familiar with the symptoms. My whole face went numb, and my heart felt like it was about to beat out of my ribcage. I panicked and I phoned an ambulance. They put me in the back, they took all my vitals, and they told me I wasn't dying. I felt disappointed. These attacks would happen pretty habitually every week or so. My symptoms of derealization seemed ever increasing. Derealization is hard to describe to someone who's never experienced it. The closest thing I can come to is feeling like you're on bad drugs. You feel disconnected from yourself, like your soul has been vacuumed out of your body, and nothing around you quite feels real. Everything has an unusual undertone, and nothing feels safe. I remember one night in the first year that I lived...
Dude, I feel like I live my life in that stage. I feel like I live my life in a stage where I'm starting to see the patterns and the codes, and like it's all just doesn't make sense anymore. Like I'm starting to realize no one knows anything and it's all bullshit. And I don't like it. I don't like it. I've been in that way for like 7 months now.
There's an unusual undertone and nothing feels safe. I remember one night in the first year that I lived with Ben, there was this lightning storm of torrential rain. I went outside and I stood in a t-shirt hoping I'd be hit by a bolt of lightning and it would somehow shock me out of it. Unfortunately, I wasn't on Zeus's hit list that day. This urge to be shocked back into reality didn't really leave me. I remember one day I was walking back from the shops. I found an old analog television in an alleyway that was being thrown out. I can't quite remember the thought process that led me there. I just remember feeling angry, and I decided to smash the fucking pieces out of the TV in the alley. I picked it above my head and I hurled it towards the ground. The screen cracked, but it didn't shatter like I hoped it would. I did it again and again and again.
Them TVs are some tough sons of bitches, I'll tell you what. I broke my hand on one of them when I was like 9, dude. Start punching the fuck out of the screen because I was getting my ass beat in a video game.
In the alley. I picked it above my head and I hurled it towards the ground. The screen cracked, but it didn't shatter like I hoped it would. I did it again and again and again until there were large shards of glass lining the street. I saw one about the size of a kitchen knife and I picked it up. It's hard to rationally explain self-harm that's not a cry for help, because this wasn't a cry for help. I'd cried for help multiple times and no one listened. The pain I felt inside my body could never be done justice with words. There's a certain horror, a certain frustration of living in a body that would never give me a moment of peace. I felt constantly alienated. I had no doctors to tell me what was going on. They made me feel like a hypochondriac. There are no combination of words in the English language that can express that pain, that can express that frustration. There's no song I could write that would make you understand. In that moment, the closest and truest way I had of communicating my pain was driving a shard of glass into my chest and dragging it across until the blood was dripping down my body. It didn't hurt very much compared to what was already going on inside of me, and it didn't really help me feel better either. But it was truth, and there was beauty in that. Adrenaline gives you a brief moment of respite, but it wasn't long until I was exactly where I started, just decorated in a little bit more blood than usual. I made sure nobody saw. I didn't want to cause any alarm. I didn't want anyone to be worried. So I cleaned it up when I got home, and then I resumed the life of the undead. In the next episode, I'll tell you the story of when I was stabbed by an ancient sword and when I met one of the most talented people that I know.
Self-harm is a dangerous game. We all do it in different ways too. Sometimes it's not direct self-harm. Sometimes it's like emotional pain that you just cause to yourself. Sometimes it's just the laziness, if not, procrastination. Sometimes it's direct self-harm. I know people that are incapable of loving. Like they're afraid to be in love. So they'll self-destruct their relationships before they become real. I know people that, they're like afraid of commitment and they can't commit to things. And they'll be self-destructive in their relationships. But self-harm is a different thing. It's like a different level to those things. Like it's like the most extreme. There could be a handful of reasons why people, do self-harm stuff. There could be a handful of them. Sometimes it's they just want control in their life, and the only control they have is how hard they can press the knife. Sometimes they want to feel anything other than just constant sadness or pain or suffering. And it's almost like the cut itself can be a form of release. There was a young lady in my life who will remain nameless, but we were together for a while. Her legs, man, she'd chop the fuck out of them whenever she had a bad day. And it was such a bummer. I wouldn't say I'm a guy who does self-harm. I'm a guy who runs his mouth too much and says more than he ought to. I'm a guy that when he thinks he's right will say what he thinks is right regardless of how it makes other people feel. I'm a guy that will stand up to my boss when they ask me to do something bad. But self-harm is not something that I personally know about of my own decision. but I've seen it many times with many people in my life. And their stories were always terrifying. That young lady used self-harm as a way to mitigate some of the decisions that were made for her. I'm not going to sit here and get on like some, pedestal and tell you, oh, I'm better than you. Don't cut. If you are going to be someone that does something dangerous like that, do ample research and understand that there are other ways to get there. And it's a dangerous addiction that can go terribly, terribly wrong, man. Just, best of luck, be careful, and try not to go down that path, I'm not going to sit here and tell you there's no reason to. Like, people used to whip themselves whenever they were bad, and some people like a little bit of pain. Just, fuck, dude.
One of the most talented people that I know. I got tears on my sleeves, hold on, and holes in these jeans, hold on. I haven't.
So this is that Hold On song, which I saw in one of the live stream ones that I watched, right? Okay, so this is like not a joke version of the Hold On song. Okie dokie. I'm ready. I actually get to hear this in all of its full glory and not just him fucking around with a guitar, probably on drugs. All right, here we go.
I got tears on my sleeves, hold on, and holes in these jeans, hold on. I haven't slept in weeks, hold on. I haven't found no peace, hold on. I get my teeth tied, hold on, and these tears run dry, hold on. Two bloodshot eyes, hold on, two bloodshot eyes. I don't belong here, in a place where life has left me. I'm 25 going on 150. My body feels old and I'm trying to lift the weight from my soul, but it's moving against me. I've emptied.
Oh my god, dude, this is gangster as fuck. This is crazy. I actually really like this Hold On song. Sounds a lot better with the guitar cleaned up and the vocals on point with that double layer up. Come on, dude.
In a place where life has left me. I'm 25 going on 150. My body feels old and I'm trying to lift the weight from my soul, but it's moving against me. I've emptied out my theodox, I lift my middle finger up. I'm screaming fuck you to all the demons here that keep me stuck. The pain is sharp like paper cuts. I hate them much, but yes I trust. I must combust, I must blow up, I must roll this courage up. Boom, sparks fill the room. I'm feeling the rhythm I move. My soul is more worn than the soles in my shoes. Nike trainer blues, a man with none to lose. I think I lost my sanity, calamity in shoes. Poor choice me.
I think I lost my sanity. I think I lost my sanity. Calamity ensues. What a fucking bar, dude.
I'm feeling the rhythm I move. My soul is more worn than the soles in my shoes. Nike trainer blues, a man with none to lose. I think I lost my sanity, calamity in shoes. Poor choice maker. I rip out the pages of fate, then I roll them up like bizzle of paper. Taker, lung full of destiny, a man with no part is a very strange entity.
Destiny, here's a shout out to you, King, the greatest debater of our time. Though his kid just came out as a Nazi. That one's a little rough. Bummer. Hate to see it.
Poor choice maker. I rip out the pages of fate, then I roll them up like bizzle of paper. Taker, lung full of destiny, a man with no part is a very strange entity. Tears on my sleeves, hold on, and holes in these jeans, hold on. I haven't slept in weeks, hold on. I haven't found no peace, hold on. I get my teeth tied, hold on, and these tears run dry, hold on. Two bloodshot eyes, hold on,
two bloodshot eyes. Do you ever question your fate? The questions I make, is this all predetermined, the script or a play? Am I the protagonist in this tragedy, or will I be the author of stories unmade? If so, I'll dip in my quill to my ink pot, keep on writing, never stop until my beating heart it flops. I'll write a whole different story. Scene one, a boy full of hope, a boy full of glory. Who stutters, I'm under the top, would rather be tougher and live it smoothly like butter, but not so bitter and cut up. And so I sit up and shut up, it's like a lid up and struck up the courage never to fuck up. And now I'm feeling the ruckus, feeling the static, and now I'm feeling the flames, and now I'm feeling the strength inside the ring with my pain. My boxing gloves and my hope that I trust to bust an uppercut, cut my demons up. What? Boom like a tsunami, smooth like a punani, bend the birds like origami, Salvador, I be the Dali, only love like Bob Marley.
What a fucking crazy style, bro. I can barely even decipher the fucking words. What the fuck? What kind of cadence is this, dude? This like reminds me of like some of that Shaggy rap, bro. You know what I mean?
And now I'm feeling the flames, and now I'm feeling the strength inside the ring with my pain. My boxing gloves and my hope that I trust to bust an uppercut, cut my demons up. What? Boom like a tsunami, smooth like a punani, bend the birds like origami, Salvador, I be the Dali, only love like Bob Marley, golden ticket, call me Charlie, riding Harley's Bengali, tiger style, call me Arnie. I'll be back. And I cut the slack, track your facts, relax, shit in the beast, and then seek it in the peace, and I'll reach the canopies, and yes, we climbing, building a brave new world inside a whole new designing. With all this fire, we burn like the sun. A new dawn is rising, a new dawn it comes. Yeah, diggity diggity down with all this corporation. They burn up the land for the greed that they run. Run deep with their roots, but their roots can be lifted. I'll be a renegade, yes, I'll make a fist kid. Try to seek truth in the kingdom of lies. A boy so lost with two bloodshot eyes. Tears on my sleeves, hold on. And holes in these jeans, hold on. I haven't slept in weeks, hold on.
It's like a
I haven't
fast
found
beat.
no peace, hold on. I get my teeth tied, hold on. And these tears run dry, hold on. Two bloodshot eyes, hold on. Two bloodshot eyes. Ha, ha, ha. Hold on. Hold on. Ha, ha, ha. Hold on. Hold on. Two bloodshot eyes. Hold on. Hold on. Two bloodshot eyes. Woo.
So that song had a lot more importance to him than I thought it did. That's crazy. Like, he did 3 mix-ups in that song. Actually, maybe 4. Like, that's crazy. Let's be real, man. Ren's story is wild. It's wild. It's wild. My shirt be looking all fucking faded, dude. This is the problem having old shirts and shit. It's a wild thing. Ren is a wild fella. Could you imagine, like, what that would do to a person? Going through that noise, where the cures for your symptoms are actually making your actual original sickness worse than, you know, all of your misdiagnoses are so much more dangerous than all the other shit you're going through? That's fucking wild, man. I'm glad that he's kind of leaving the sick boy stuff behind. And moving in a new direction for his music. It might make a few of his fans mad, but I think a newer, more happy direction for Ren would be a good thing. There's a reason why even he's self-critical in his High Ren song. When he says something about, he's like, oh, well, no one wants to hear you just do another sad song about how much you hate yourself. Those songs matter. But artists need to be very careful about hanging out in a pocket. Now, luckily, Ren doesn't do that. But even Ren is critical of himself because he wants to mix up you know, he wants to pull himself away from what he already does. Which is that every artist wants to do that. Every artist wants to do something new. Like, I guarantee you the next book I write outside of Illimin is not going to be a high fantasy novel. I swear to God. I'm gonna write a fucking rom-com with a werewolf or something gay, dude. That's what I'm gonna do. That's what I'm gonna do. Look, man, every time I see Rin's stories, I feel like I understand more, and that's beautiful. Rin has an amazing story for us to all learn from. And not just us, the medical industry can learn a lot from what happened to Rin. The medical industry vastly needs to improve what they do. The problem is it's not lost on the medical industry they need to improve. And there are people that are fighting within the industry every day to make it a better place. But just as the industry needs to improve, we as customers need to improve. You know, like these fucking things. The world would be such a better place. Well, it's going to be rich coming from a guy of my caliber and size. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be rich coming from a guy like me. These Red Bulls, the fucking Cokes and the high cholesterol and all the shit that's just really unhealthy, or the fact that, you know, we could make our lives so much better if we'd go for a fucking 20-minute goddamn walk. You know, we ask our medical industry to be better, but we don't ask that of ourselves. And we ought to. We need to be better people that are worth saving. You know, I'm not saying we don't have that worth now. And if we need to be saved, we should do it. But if we're going to ask for the medical industry that we want, we should also just be better possible, you know, takers of said product. Because the medical industry is just full of so many, like, people dying of lung cancer because they smoked their whole life, taking up a bed that they didn't have to occupy, but in their greed, they just kept smoking cigarettes. And it's not that we shouldn't help these people. These people, even though they actively made a decision that would harm them, just like I did to eat cheeseburgers the way that I did, or drink Red Bull, or drink whatever, and if I have a heart attack tomorrow, like, and the burden I put on the society that I'm a part of, yes, our medical industry needs to improve 100 times down. But there are little things we could do every day to make ourselves a little better for the medical industry as well. And not necessarily for them, but for us as well. Like, come on, man. We want improvement, but we got to start with ourselves. But if you want to put the world in order, you got to start by cleaning your room.